Have you ever looked at someone you once loved and wondered, what was I thinking? Not because they were evil, not because they were bad, but because somewhere deep inside, you knew they were wrong for you, and you loved them anyway. Why do we fall for people who hurt us? Why does pain feel like passion? And why do we call chaos love? This is not just a story of heartbreak. It's a story of your wounds, your childhood, and your unconscious mind, trying to heal itself through another human being. But instead of healing, you find yourself trapped in a loop that feels like love, but tastes like self-destruction. This is the dark truth about trauma bonds. And until you understand them, you'll keep confusing chemistry with destiny and pain with love. Love doesn't begin in adulthood. It begins in the cradle, in the way your parents looked at you, or didn't, in how they held space for your emotions, or told you to stay quiet, in whether your tears were met with comfort or silence. Long before you had your first crush, you were already learning what love feels like. And for many of us, that lesson was broken. If love came with conditions, you learned to perform to be accepted. If love was inconsistent, you learned to chase after it, even if it hurt. If love was smothering or absent, you learned that safety means withdrawal, not closeness. This becomes your unconscious blueprint, the emotional map you carry into every relationship. And here's the terrifying part. The blueprint doesn't lead you to healthy love. It leads you to familiar love. Psychologists call this attachment theory. And it's not just theory. It's your life. If you grew up feeling unsure whether love would stay or leave, you might develop an anxious attachment, clinging, fearing, overgiving. If closeness felt overwhelming, unpredictable, or invasive, you might become avoidant, distant, self-reliant, emotionally unavailable. And if your childhood was chaotic or traumatic, you may carry a disorganized attachment, oscillating between craving love and fearing it. These patterns aren't your fault, but they become your default. Your mind is always trying to finish the story. It's trying to rewrite the past through the people you're drawn to. This is what Freud called the repetition compulsion, the tendency to recreate our earliest wounds, hoping to fix them this time. So you fall for someone emotionally unavailable, because maybe this time you'll finally be chosen. Or you cling to someone chaotic, because maybe this time your love will be enough to save them. But it never works, because until you break the pattern, you'll keep mistaking trauma for connection. We don't fall in love with who someone is. We fall in love with what our wounds recognize. And until we heal those wounds, we'll keep loving the wrong people, thinking it's fate, when it's actually familiarity in disguise. They say, follow your heart. But what if your heart was trained by your trauma? That electric pull you feel, the butterflies, the spark, the intensity. We often mistake it for destiny, for love at first sight. But sometimes, it's just your nervous system recognizing something dangerous, but familiar. Attraction is not always about beauty, connection, or shared values. Sometimes it's your subconscious whispering, this feels like home, even if home was unpredictable, chaotic, or painful. We feel drawn to people who mirror our emotional past, not because they're good for us, but because they help us recreate the same emotional environment we were conditioned to survive in. If love once felt like walking on eggshells, then someone who keeps you guessing might feel exciting. If love once meant being ignored, then someone emotionally unavailable might feel just right. We call it chemistry. But it's really just familiarity in disguise. Emotional highs and lows mimic the rush of romance, the uncertainty, the anxiety, the chase. It becomes addictive because it triggers spikes of dopamine, the same chemical released during gambling or drug use. The brain confuses the drama with depth, the chaos with connection. That's why someone who offers stability, honesty, or calmness can feel boring. We think there's no spark because our nervous system is used to confusion, not clarity, pain, not peace. But true compatibility isn't found in fireworks. It's found in emotional safety, in shared values, in mutual respect. The most dangerous myth we believe is this: if I'm not obsessed, it's not love. But obsession is not love. Intensity is not intimacy. And attraction does not equal compatibility. Until we rewire what we call love, we will continue to chase the fire that burns us, confusing emotional instability for passion and calling our trauma our soulmate. It always starts like a dream. They see you, they adore you, they make you feel like the center of the universe. You've never felt so wanted, so chosen. This is the idealization phase. It's fast, intense, addictive. You feel like you finally found what you've been searching for all your life. But then, slowly, quietly, something shifts. They withdraw, they criticize, they ghost you for days, only to come back with a half-hearted apology or a sudden burst of affection. And you find yourself trying harder to be good enough again, to get back to the beginning, to earn back that high. This is the devaluation phase, where you are no longer the prize, you are the one chasing it. Then comes the guilt. Maybe you blame yourself, maybe they do. But somewhere in your mind, you believe you did something wrong to lose their love. And so when they return with crumbs of affection, you feel relief, gratitude, even joy. You reconnect. And the cycle begins again. Idealization, devaluation, guilt, reconnection. It becomes a loop so intense it feels like love, but it's not. It's a trauma bond. A trauma bond is not forged in love. It's forged in inconsistency, in confusion, in the unpredictable reward of being seen, then ignored, loved, then blamed. Psychologically, this creates a kind of addiction. Your nervous system becomes hooked on the emotional roller coaster. The highs feel euphoric, the lows feel unbearable. You start craving the person who hurts you because only they can relieve the pain they caused. It's a trap, and like any trap, the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to see clearly. This is why Stockholm Syndrome doesn't just happen with kidnappers. It happens in relationships. When you begin to justify the abuse, when you mistake survival for connection, when the part of you that's hurting starts calling it love. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part is this: you don't just stay because you're weak. You stay because the wound they open in you is the same wound you've been carrying since childhood. And part of you still believes if I can make them love me, maybe I'll finally be enough. But you're already enough. You just forgot. Because someone taught you love had to be earned through suffering. And until you break the cycle, you'll keep calling your trauma home. If it hurts so much, why do we stay? Why do we hold on to people who ignore us, blame us, manipulate us, but still manage to convince us it's love? Because deep down, we're not always chasing love. We're running from something far more terrifying: abandonment. For many, being alone doesn't just feel empty, it feels dangerous. It reminds us of every time we felt invisible as children. Every moment we cried and no one came. Every silent punishment. Every cold shoulder. Every night we were left to deal with the pain by ourselves. So now, as adults, we cling, not to the person, but to the feeling of being needed, being chosen, being seen, even if just for a moment. We mistake emotional enmeshment for love. When your identity melts into theirs, when their moods control your peace, when their validation becomes your oxygen, it feels like closeness. But it's not love, it's fusion. And fusion is not intimacy, It's dependency. You stop asking what you want. You stop listening to your needs. You shrink. You silence your truth. You betray your own boundaries, all to keep them close, all to avoid the unbearable fear. What if they leave me? But here's the paradox. When you're afraid of being abandoned, you abandon yourself first. You turn away from your pain, your truth, your worth. And over time, you forget who you even were before them. We stay because we think love is sacrifice. That if we just give more, tolerate more, love harder, they'll change. They'll come around. They'll finally give us the love we're starving for. But what we're actually doing is trading our self-worth for temporary attention, our silence for fleeting connection. We're not in love with them. We're in love with the idea of being loved and terrified that we'll never find it again. And so, we stay. Not because it's right, but because it's familiar. Because the pain of abandonment feels more real than the unknown peace of freedom. But freedom is where love begins. Not love for them, love for yourself. You don't break the pattern by finding a better partner. You break the pattern by becoming someone who no longer needs the pain to feel alive. Because what we often call love isn't love at all. It's unconscious craving. It's the inner child, still wounded, still desperate, still hoping that this time someone will stay, someone will see them, someone will make them whole. But no one can do that for you. Not truly, not permanently. That's where the real work begins. Shadow work is not poetry. It's not aesthetics. It's facing the ugliest parts of yourself, the parts that chase love to avoid loneliness, that beg for validation just to feel worthy, that stay quiet to avoid rejection. To break the pattern, you must return to the child inside you, the one who was abandoned, dismissed, overlooked. And you don't yell at that child. You don't shame them. You hold them. You say, I see you now, and I'm not leaving. Healing your inner child doesn't mean erasing the past. It means giving yourself what no one gave you back then. Safety, consistency, unconditional love. This is where self-worth is reprogrammed. Not by affirmations, but by boundaries. By saying, I will no longer stay in places that hurt me just to prove I'm lovable. I will no longer chase people who treat my presence as a convenience. I will no longer mistake chaos for connection. At first, peace will feel uncomfortable. Stability will feel foreign. You'll second-guess yourself. You'll want to go back to what's familiar, because familiar pain often feels safer than unknown healing. But you must learn to recognize that familiarity is not the same as love. Just because someone reminds you of your past doesn't mean they belong in your future. The more you grow, the quieter your relationships become. Less drama, more clarity, fewer highs and lows, more presence, truth, and safety. This is conscious love. A love that is chosen, not chased, given freely, not begged for, rooted in wholeness, not wound. And the day you walk away from someone not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself more, is the day the cycle ends. We spend our lives searching for the one, the soulmate, the missing piece. We swipe, we hope, we fantasize that maybe this next person will finally complete us, finally fix the emptiness we carry like a secret inside our chest. But here's the brutal truth. No one is coming to save you. Love won't heal your wounds. People won't rewrite your past. And no partner, no matter how kind, can rescue you from the parts of yourself you still refuse to meet. The real journey isn't about finding the right person. It's about becoming the person you were always meant to be, before the world told you you weren't enough. Because true love doesn't begin with another. It begins within. It begins the moment you stop outsourcing your worth and start reclaiming it. There is a paradox in healing. the moment you stop needing love to feel whole, is the moment you start attracting it effortlessly, not from a place of desperation, but from alignment, from self-respect, from radiance. When you stop chasing people to escape your loneliness, you begin to cultivate peace in your own presence. When you stop begging for scraps of affection, you start demanding truth and integrity. And when you stop believing that love is something to be earned, you finally understand that love is something to be shared. Healing your trauma is not about becoming flawless. It's about becoming aware of your triggers, your patterns, your inherited beliefs, aware of the moments where you want to run or cling or shut down, and choosing differently. Because every time you choose your peace over your pattern, you break the cycle, you step out of survival and into self-love. And one day, love will arrive again. But this time, it won't come to complete you. It will come to meet you. Two whole people, two healed hearts, no longer trying to fix each other, but simply willing to grow together. You don't heal by finding the right person. You heal by becoming the kind of person who no longer abandons themselves for love. And from that place of power, you don't just attract love, you embody it. So if you're wondering why you keep loving the wrong people, maybe it's time to stop asking what's wrong with them and start asking what inside you still believes that love must hurt to be real. Because you were never meant to beg for crumbs. You were never meant to shrink to be held. You were meant to be seen, fully, loved, wholly, chosen, completely. But that begins with you, when you finally choose yourself, when you stop chasing the fire that burns you and start becoming the light that heals you. Real love doesn't find you when you're broken. It finds you when you've built yourself back up. Not perfect, but whole. If this spoke to something deep inside you, don't let it be just another video you scroll past. Leave a comment below. Have you ever been in a trauma bond, and how did you break free? Your story might help someone else heal. And if you're ready to stop repeating cycles and start reclaiming your worth, subscribe to Metaphysics Diary, where we go beyond surface advice and dive deep into the wounds, wisdom, and awakening of the soul. Your healing starts here, and you're not alone.